Good evening and happy Monday, everybody. I hope you all had a restful and holy Sunday and that your week started off well. Um, Tonight, we're going to do a fair bit of Catholic insider baseball here. So, if that's not the sort of topic you want to hear about, come back in about 10 minutes after I'm done ranting. So, last week, the Society of St. Pius X announced that they are intending to go through with episcopal consecrations sometime in the future. Now, perhaps you say, Father, aren't bishops consecrated all the time? That doesn't sound like it's particularly newsworthy. Well, the fact of the matter is that they don't have the authority to consecrate a bishop. And they are, as far as I can tell, intending to do so without a papal mandate. You may say, wow, that's pretty interesting. What's going to happen? Well, if you read the Code of Canon Law, anybody who attempts a episcopal consecration without papal mandate, that both the person who is performing the consecration and the person who receives it are automatically excommunicated. So sounds like that's a pretty severe penalty, and that's because it is. This is a really big deal. So let's take a little look at the history here. So we go back to about 1970 when the new Roman Missal is released, and it's expected that Catholics throughout the world are celebrating Mass according to the new Roman Missal. This was a bit of a shock for a lot of people. They perhaps weren't expecting quite so radical a change in the way that they were celebrating Mass. There was a fairly substantial group of priests, along with a bishop, who decided that they wished to continue using the old ways, and they formed what we could technically call the Priestly Society of St. Pius X. And they decided that they were going to continue doing things the old way. Now, in the 1970s, throughout the entire 1970s, the Vatican and Archbishop Lefebvre, who was the head of the and founder of the Society of St. Pius X, they were at loggerheads over and over again. And, um, they we can see kind of continual disobedience on the part of the Society of St. Pius X. Uh, but there were a lot of people who were rather compelled by his argument. And the basic part of his argument, and the thing that I think at least needs to be taken seriously, is this idea that, the way that things used to be run works better than what we have now. And there's going to be long term decay in people's liturgical formation and capacity to understand God if the old ways are not preserved somewhere. So, all throughout the 1970s into the 1980s, there's this continual back and forth between the Vatican and Archbishop Lefebvre and the Society of St. Pius X. Things come to a head in 1988. Archbishop Lefebvre is aging quite a bit, and he considers that the Society of St. Pius X needs bishops in order to continue their ministry. So he announces that he's going to consecrate 4 bishops without a papal mandate. And there's a fair amount of drama and confusion about whether or not he would have eventually have been given permission to do this consecration. I'm not going to deal with that now. The fact of the matter is that he went through with the episcopal consecrations without the papal mandate in 1988, and that created a big rift. First off, in the society, a lot of priests who wished to continue the work did not want to do so in under the leadership of somebody who had committed that flagrant and that public of an act of disobedience to the Holy Father. And they actually, kind of gathered together. I think it was 15 or 20 of them, and asked permission to create a similar structure under the auspices of Rome uh, to perform the same sort of traditional formation and traditional sacraments that Archbishop Lefebvre had wanted, and so that's where the priestly fraternity of Saint Peter came from. They were founded by people who had broke away from Saint Pius X and came back to Rome and did everything with papal approval. So that's great. All throughout the '90s and into the 2000s, you know, Society of Saint Pius X exists in canonical limbo. The bishops of the Society of Saint Pius X are all exercising their ministry illicitly. The confirmations that they perform and the ordinations that they celebrate are still valid. But during that entire time, they would not have had faculties to hear confessions or witness marriages. So that's kind of a problem because people were still going to SSPX chapels and going to confession and having their vows witnessed there. So it's all kind of a mess. Now, Pope Benedict XVI really wanted to resolve this situation. He wanted to bring them back in. So um, he first, I think kind of the first move that he did was in 2007, opening up restrictions on the traditional Latin Mass and the other older forms of blessings and sacraments, making that more broadly available to the church everywhere. So that was something that Benedict XVI did, and he tried to see if they could come to a doctrinal agreement of a way that we could both parties could accept Vatican II. Um, he was about as permissive as they were ever going to get out of a pope. He was, Benedict XVI was always going to be the best friend they were going to likely to have, and they did not take him up on his offer. Those talks stalled out, and even though Benedict XVI lifted the excommunications on the four bishops, um, there was not a reciprocity in the way the SSPX responded. Pope Francis even went farther. He actually granted the priests of the Society of Saint Pius X faculties to hear confessions. And a possibility of witnessing marriages according to canonical form. So, all in all, what we have is a group that has, you know, certainly been rather rebellious, even if you think they've got pretty good arguments backing them up, and have not accepted um, what I think were probably fairly permissive overtures to have them reconciled. Now, during this whole time, I've been, imagining that the leadership of the SSPX has been of a certain mind. You'll hear all sorts of things on the internet from people, and most of it's garbage. Uh, but like oftentimes, the leadership of church is better informed, and the reason that they're the leaders is that they can handle these things with a little more subtlety and security here. And so the news that they were going to do this Episcopal consecration thing again came as a bit of a little shock and an invitation for me to update my map. And there was a particular paragraph in an interview with the supreme moderator of the SSPX that I think is very telling. Uh, Now, this paragraph would have been something I would have long expected to hear from people in the pews at an SSPX chapel, and that wouldn't surprise me. But to hear it from their supreme moderator was a little bit shocking. So, this is what he said. It is sad to acknowledge, but it is a fact that, in an ordinary parish, the faithful no longer find the means necessary to ensure their eternal salvation. Missing, in particular, are both the integral preaching of Catholic truth and morality and the worthy administration of the sacraments as the Church has always done. This deprivation is what constitutes the state of necessity. Now, when you say it like that, it's pretty clear to me that you don't want to be a part of the larger Catholic Church there, that you are off doing your own thing, that it's just you're not interested in reconciliation there. Like saying that faithful no longer find the means necessary to enter their eternal salvation at an ordinary parish, right? So not a dysfunctional parish, not a gravely dysfunctional parish, um, at an ordinary parish. So that was a bit of an eye opener for me and an opportunity for me to update the map in my head up here. So I'm certainly sympathetic to a lot of the arguments they make, specifically, regarding the traditional Latin Mass and the older rituals of the sacraments. I think those ought to have a place in the church going forward. I've expressed that opinion many, many times on this here YouTube channel. But this right here, I can't go along with that. That is a bridge too far for me. So I propose a solution, and the solution is the time has now come to drop the hammer. That we can no longer tolerate this sort of rhetoric, and I don't really see much hope of reintegrating the SSPX into the life of the church. So, certainly, if they go through with these illicit consecrations, the automatic penalties that are present in the Code of Canon Law should be declared immediately. I would furthermore give all of the priests of the Society of St. Pius X 1 year to find another place to do their ministry. Otherwise, they will face further excommunications. I would furthermore declare that no member of the Catholic faithful can fulfill their Sunday Mass obligations or any day of precept at a SSPX chapel. And along with these penal remedies, we would also need to have making Mass according to the 1962 Roman Missal and the other sacraments with the older liturgical books widely available. You do those two things, you will begin to draw boundaries clearly for people so that they can know who is inside and who is outside, and give a great many people who I think wish to be in communion with the Holy Father, wish to be in communion with the Roman Pontiff, give them just the kind of mental clarity they need to know what they should do. So that's just what I think. I offer it up as a solution. And I think the time has come for these things to be done. Okay, what do we have going on here? Insider baseball. Another new missile. I'm still using St. Joseph's. I mean, the missile that the priest's using. I hope you paid attention, Ron. You don't have to be a sedevacantist to be a trad. Just saying, I'm a little bit trad, and we've had popes since the beginning. Is there canon law that cites the Noahide covenant? Not that I am aware of. Maybe he meant most ordinary parishes have become dysfunctional. Well, then the solution to that is to go clean the parishes up, not to break off and do your own thing. So there's your Catholic Insider Baseball for you, Mark.
That was wonderful, Father. I feel knowledgeable now.
We have information anyway.
Well, it's amazing. I've been pondering this for years, but it's amazing to me how very simple sorts of, if you break this, all these other things must also be broken. Just, it doesn't work with people. Like, they just don't get it. They're like, it can't be that easy. I was like, no, it is that easy. Like, it's exactly that simple. There's nothing difficult about it at all.
And so you're
Um,
talking about like breaking communion with the Roman Pontiff, um,
yeah,
breaks a whole bunch of other things.
or just but it can be really basic. Like if you insult all like everybody's doing it wrong, obviously you're not on board and you can't be brought on board, obviously. And people will go, well, and I'm like, no, I don't know. I know exactly what was said and I know what that means, and you making an excuse for them makes you the bad guy too. Please, let's have fewer bad guys and not more bad guys. And that's because people do that. They do that everywhere. They do it in law and the courts all the time. Go to court and just walk. Just go to court. Go to court, and
To
just
be
walk.
fair, some of the people are being paid to say such things. So
Well, that's okay. They can be paid, and I can get rid of them. Like, okay, you're paid to be evil. That's fine. I'm paid to get rid of evil. How's that? You know what? I'll do the getting rid of evil for free. Ah, let's see who wins. I like the answer's the same. Like I don't, again, like making excuses for bad behavior makes you one of the bad. You're on team bad. Don't be on team bad. There's no reason to be on team bad. There's no reason to defend bad behavior because you don't want to believe the answer is very, very simple. And when you get into these complicated answers, this is why everyone's in a conspiracy theory. Because they can't believe the simple answer. Right? Like there's all kinds of things right now that are just really simple answers. Yeah, that person's incompetent. That's all. They're not part of some cigar smoking conspiracy. They're just retarded and somehow got a job when they shouldn't have had one. And so, none of this stuff is hard. But we like to make it hard. We like to make like, well, they've got a few good points. So the fact that they're perfectly happy to throw everybody that they should be, rooting for or helping under the bus, that can be forgiven. No, it cannot under any circumstances. It's a flat no. It does. You don't need to get complicated. You don't need all the other bad things. Like one bad thing makes you bad. I don't need 10. Like I'm not a threshold guy. I'm a line guy. Oh, you cross the line, you're done. See ya. Bye. This isn't hard. It doesn't have to be difficult.
oh man, we should have gotten you trained in canon law.
No, I can't. I can't be around any kind of law. The minute somebody would break it, no one would find them again, for sure. There's not even a cry. I'd be like, nah, this is the way. It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good.
Mark would have been a bouncer.
No. There's no way.
No, I'm just saying the
People cross a line, and that would no, because I grew up in Lowell. They'd just end up in a canal, and someday they'd get dredged. That's what would happen.
Wow, Mark, wow!
I know people that ended up in the canal, and I know why. And you know what? That's where they belong to. So,
what?
If any police are watching, I just assume that Mark is joking. I just assume that, and then you don't have to make any response to that, Mark.
All I'm
you just
saying
let that
is that they ended up in a canal, and I know why, and that's where they belong.
Usually, I'm the one talking trash. This is pretty good.
Peugeot just put out this nice video recently about it. Nice is not a Christian quality. You're not called to be nice. That's not what it was. A really good video.
It's certainly not the highest quality, right? Sometimes, actually, most of the time, nice is pretty useful. So, let's just go ahead and use that. But
you're supposed to be kind and caring, but you're actually. I think the problem is again, we let people just screw around with the language to the point where whatever you mean by forgiveness is wrong. Whatever you mean by nice is they're misusing these words in such an egregious way that we just have to tell them no. You can't use the word that way. Go away. That no, forgiveness is for the person, not for the person that transgressed. The person that can transgress has bigger problems. I can't do anything in my heart to make them better after the fact of the transgression. There's nothing I can do. I don't have that power. Period. You may want forgiveness from me, but forgiveness is for me. It's not for anybody else. So you don't even know if I've forgiven you, and nor should you care, because me forgiving you does nothing for you. at all, right?
Yeah,
And so
I mean,
it's things like that.
if you've really transgressed, you need forgiveness from
That's
God, whom you've
that's
offended.
right. Well, you need
That's
you need confession, you need repentance, and you need penance. That's what you need.
and we're going to put this
You
into
need
nice Catholic language: contrition, confession, absolution, satisfaction. How about that?
whatever, man. You speak foreign language, that's fine. I don't speak that language. But they do the same thing with nice, right? Oh, you know, you should be nice. You should, and worse yet, you should assume that they're nice. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to do that under any circumstances. I'm gonna assume that their fruits are judgeable. Like, then that's the only criteria I have. What are the fruits? Mathieu Peugeot put out a video. Well, it came out earlier last month, I guess, but it didn't get any press really. And he was talking about that at the end. Like, no, you just got to judge by what you see, and you can't get into this. You know, well, you know, it could be a psyop. Maybe they did it to fool me, and you can't do that, because then you're in this self-referential loop forever, and that's how conspiracy theories start, right? So you can't. They only put out that press release because they wanted us to believe this thing, and it's like, oh my goodness, like what are you
Giving
doing?
these people way too much credit. That's indeed the truth.
Well, that's the other stunning part to me. I'm like, this is what I was saying earlier. Like, you see a behavior out of a person, you're just like, well, that's a fluke or whatever, and you ignore it. It's like, but if they did something dumb, that's almost certainly either a mistake, and if it's a mistake, they'll find it and catch it. Right? But if they're dumb, it's not a mistake. It's something they're going to do again because they're dumb. And so I know if they don't acknowledge the dumb thing they did as a mistake, it's not a mistake, it's a pattern, and they're going to keep doing it. And also it has implications for other things they're going to do, right? Because if you can't see it, you can't see it. Right? And so, you know, I run into that all the time. I was just talking to Sally about this recently, like, you know, 30 minutes ago or something. I was saying, like, you know, I've got all these clips from the Vander Clay live stream there on Friday that I just found fascinating. And I was asking a bunch of people, like, hey, did you notice that when this person said they were thinking of converting or starting the process to get catechized in the Catholic tradition, but that wasn't the interesting part. I mean, that was just weird, Ron. Like, I've never seen Mark Parker not be completely off the rails and not be the weirdest person on the channel. And then on that stream, he was completely correct. Zero deviation. He made his point perfectly, somehow. I don't even understand it. And he was the smartest guy in the room. And I've never, I could never have predicted that could become a truth, right? Like, this to me is a bigger miracle. That wasn't the interesting part. I mean, the fact that he made a perfect conversion argument for Protestants, that none of the rebel Protestants who would rather die than say anything less than snarky about Catholic churches or Catholicism in general, you know, they had nothing to say. They were completely silent. That's saying a lot. In you know, Pastor Paul is, he's good for the snark, and he's really bright, and he had nothing to say, which is an unusual circumstance, to be sure, right? But if you watch the faces of some of the people there, I contended pretty much anybody can tell, you know, that they have this disgust or hatred or dislike about what he said about about potentially converting to Catholicism.
I don't know.
You know, I can't talk about that with Sally because I know Sally can see that, but I can talk about it with other people who don't usually see it, right? And they saw it. So that was a good sign, right? And that was what was really interesting to me, was that it was so clear to lots of other people who normally don't, you know, wouldn't see that. They wouldn't see the, you know, the panic or the rage or whatever on someone's face.
That one did catch me off. I actually called Mark after that and talked to him about it. I'm like, and he's very sincere, and it was surprising.
That was obvious. Well, and this goes along with a bunch of theories that I have, which are not new to me, we'll say, but I arrived at them honestly by myself years ago, decades ago, right? That if you are sincere and you are in alignment with the truth, that's exactly what you expect to happen. You will seem like the smartest guy in the room. Your argument will be completely unassailable. Like people won't even try, because nobody tried. Nobody even tried. Now, and I can tell you from watching, I used to watch ball all the time. That was the first time that happened, where nobody even tried. That was the first time. Because anytime anybody else mentioned even orthodoxy, there was always at least a snarky comment. Always. And that was the first time it didn't happen, because I think he was completely sincere and he was in complete alignment with the truth. And there's nothing you can do against that. And again, that's one of those signs where I'm constantly reminding people, well, listen, if there was a valid argument, why didn't they make it? Well, the answer is because there isn't one. Like, that's the answer. The reason why the argument wasn't made is because they don't have one, because they're wrong. And the person who said the thing that didn't get any pushback is correct. Is that true 100% of the time? No, but it's true 99.999% of the time. And that's good enough for me. I'm just not that persnickety about the whole thing.
And if I can, just as a side note, because that conversation, I don't remember it all right now because it was pretty heated or lively rather, not heated.
Yeah, I wouldn't say heated.
Right. Father, for the inside baseball that's going on, I will pray, but can you give me the Protestant I don't understand Cliff Notes? Because I do understand you've got a group of guys that are just not. They're operating outside their authority. That's what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically that. It's so it's really complicated, right? Well, it's not complicated. There's multiple things going.
You got guys not paying attention to the boss.
Right.
Okay.
And then there's also this sense where if Archbishop Lefebvre hadn't been as prickly and uncooperative as he was.
What's going on? I don't even know. I don't understand any of this or the significance of it.
Sure. So do you remember that the Mass in the 1960s and before was a certain way?
Yeah, in Latin, yes.
Yeah, and then there was a lot, like the ritual of the Mass, like the whole grammar of the Mass was much more symbolic. Much less didactic.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it's it's like It's a Wonderful Life. Are you gonna talk her to death, or are you gonna kiss her? That's what I think of when I think about this. Right? Okay, so you get to 1970, the new missal comes out. Archbishop Lefebvre is like, this ain't gonna work.
What do you mean? Wait, this isn't gonna work with the new revision?
This new mass is not as effective as the old one.
Oh, okay. And his name is what?
Archbishop Lefebvre.
It's my last name somehow. No relation. No relation. I promise.
All right.
Our Lefebvre is a blasting Quebecois.
Yes.
Lefebvre was a son of France. True son of France.
Okay.
So, so that was like the main contestation of the argument. So along with what I think is like an argument, a reasonable argument against, we're just like, hey, can we talk about this new mass thing?
Yeah.
There's also some of the documents of the Second Vatican Council that they think are an unacceptable compromise with modern thinking, with the modern ways of doing things. Now, most of their arguments, I don't think really carry all that much water about ecumenism and interreligious dialogue. Like it's like
Right.
those
Okay.
things could be done responsibly, even if they were often done irresponsibly. The one thing
Right.
that they are really interesting on is church-state relations, and this is Second Vatican Council is the Catholic Church kind of warming up to the idea of religious liberty, which is more than merely tolerating other religions, but saying that human beings, because they have this duty to seek the truth, should have the right to be able to practice the truth as they see fit. So you got this connection between the rights and duties there, which would not been the party line previously. So
what does that mean? Does that mean like all dogs go to heaven, or
no?
Oh, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like, hey, the government should not be interfering with people's free exercise of a religion.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Which was not the way the 19th century popes talked at all.
Oh.
They were like, Gregory the 16th was like, freedom of speech? Are you people stupid? You're going to let anybody talk? And don't tell me that it's okay to sell poison as long as the antidote's freely available. That's complete nonsense, So it's that right there. If you like really focus in on it, that's like the biggest. So in the actual text of Vatican II, that right there is the biggest innovation. Everything else, freedom. Yeah, well, freedom of speech too.
No, and I'm using it in
freedom of religion. Understand freedom of religion.
Okay.
Religious freedom. That's the biggest innovation of Vatican II. It's frankly the best argument. I don't know. I mean, the way I see it, there isn't actually any like balanced position between church-state relationship. That it's always like somebody's going to be overstepping their boundaries, and it's always going to be a mess. So whether or not you've got like the altar and throne monarchies, or you've got secularism and the Catholic Church is one religion among equals, you're going to have trade-offs either way, and it's never going to be perfect. So I think of it more as like a tertiary theological issue that we just kind of have to hack out in the real world.
Right, but to be fair, Father, like Europe always functioned differently with respect to like the whole idea of separation of church and state is completely United States and nothing else. And in Europe, they were still, the government was still tithing people on behalf of the church.
Yeah.
So
they still are in Europe. Yes.
Right, including the Catholic Church. And so for them to change that is more them copying the United States, which is primarily a Protestant, unfortunately, nation. If it's a nation or federation of nations, we'll use Colin Woodard's stuff. And I like, this is where all the mistakes come from, I think, in the world right now, is people in Europe trying to copy what they see in the United States and getting it horribly wrong.
Sure. So that's like, there's a whole mix of things there that we're dealing with. And then, the best argument that SSPX also had was just the absolute chaos of the late 60s and 70s into the 80s.
Right.
And it's like, Marx made this point well. It's like, once you open the door for change, you're not quite sure what's going to come in through that door. And a lot of really weird stuff came in, and we're just starting to get things back to like normal functioning there.
So what's with these guys? The
SSPX.
Yes.
Yeah. So they said, all of this is a mistake. We need to throw it all out and go back.
Oh, that sounds great.
Look at it. It is sad to acknowledge, but it is a fact that in an ordinary parish, the faithful no longer find the means necessary to ensure their eternal salvation. Missing, in particular, are both the integral preaching of the Catholic truth and morality and the worthy administration of the sacraments as the Church has always done. This deprivation is what constitutes the state of necessity. And the state of necessity is what
Right.
legitimates their
Yeah.
yeah.
Is this a mutiny? And because I understand nautical terms pretty well. This is like, and I'm not trying to poke at anything.
Yeah. It's definitely insubordination, and
Okay.
that's why I was talking about the things Benedict XVI did to try and resolve this. But like that's the problem with these things. The problem with these things is that eventually. So here's Father Eric's imagining things, right?
Yeah.
I'm imagining that I'm in the room. I'd be like,
Right.
listen, guys, all right, I'll cut you a deal. I will tolerate you people dissenting from the Vatican II teaching on religious liberty, because we can actually do that. That's a theological note in the science of dogmatic theology. A tolerated opinion is that one that the church teaches is wrong, but we've decided we're not going to punish people, for saying it in certain like. So Mark Parker talks about let's all be wrong together. He's a little more correct maybe than he knows. Now that doesn't work with everything, right?
Right.
Certain parts of faith and morals you've got to keep, and if you start, you might get excommunicated for the more important stuff. But some of this other stuff, we can actually tolerate people dissenting on certain things. And, there'd be guarantees that they would always be able to use, the liturgical books that they want. And maybe even I'd write an encyclical on tradition. And I don't know if they'd take that deal.
So we're okay.
And the trade would be you have to drop this state of emergency business, the state of necessity business.
Oh.
Right? Like that would be the trade. And we don't even have to historically say it. I just need you to say there is no state of necessity. What do we do now, Holy Father? Right?
Okay.
This is me bending down and laying my hands flat on the floor. This is as far as I can stretch. Anything farther and something's going to break.
Right.
I don't think they take the deal. I think they've been away so long that.
How long they've been gone?
So they've never done anything with permission. And I think at the time they could justify that and they weren't excommunicated. People are disobedient all the time. And it doesn't always immediately result in excommunication,
How long has this been going on?
So 1971, he founds a society.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So right away. And it was always like this with the Vatican, because Vatican was trying to get everybody along board with the new program. And they weren't. And then it was 88 when there was these people are serious when they did the illicit episcopal consecrations.
What's that mean?
Meaning Archbishop Lefebvre made other bishops.
And so help me understand. Obviously, why is this bad or wrong? I don't know. I don't understand.
Sure. So the law of the church is very clear. You can't consecrate somebody a bishop without a papal mandate.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so it's like that's written down. It's real clear. It's the way we've been operating for centuries now.
Yeah. And so what happened and when?
1988. I think it was June or July. Archbishop Lefebvre consecrated 4 men to be bishops because he was getting old.
Yeah.
And he thought the society needed bishops to continue on.
Okay.
He was in negotiations, and this is a whole complicated story that I don't have a firm grasp on. Yeah. I've heard people say that he would have gotten the permission if he had waited just a little bit longer.
Oh.
I don't have the full grasp on the story on, so you'd need to.
So
for
what's
that.
going on now? Is this thing is it going
Well,
sideways? Is it going Chernobyl or something?
well, it's been kind of in like a very unpleasant situation for a while. Benedict XVI lifted the excommunications. He loosened up restrictions on the traditional liturgies and gave them, I don't know if it was quite as good a deal as I would have given them, but a fairly like flexible offer. Like, could we sign this agreement and get you guys back on board?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
they turned it down. So everywhere that they have a chapel, they don't have the local bishop's permission to build that and operate it.
Okay, so are they getting funded by the
The
church?
faithful,
Uh, are are they a splinter group?
they're basically a splinter
Yeah.
group. Yeah, that's a good way to
Right.
understand it.
Okay,
And what's
so
making it
yeah,
relevant now is they said we're going to consecrate bishops again.
Right.
okay. Okay, I think I'm getting up to speed. That's a problem.
Yeah, they're going to self-perpetuate within. Yeah.
Well, and then also I okay. So when a body has like a benign tumor, you can leave it alone.
Mhm.
And then if it starts growing, and I don't like putting it this way, but I'm just trying as best I see. So
I mean, that was basically the conclusion I came to, is like, we're going to make this real clear. It's cut off now. This is an act of schism,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they are now off on their own. They are no longer connected to the
All
body.
right. So what happens? All right, so and I don't like. I'm not trying to be guys. I'm not trying to.
Ron, you've been on this
Say it.
stream enough. You don't
All
have
right.
to apologize
All right.
for asking
Because all right.
questions.
So what's all right? So black. So I hate saying it like this, but what happens next?
I don't know. I'm not the guy in the room making the decisions. I'm just a dumb priest from flyover country.
No, here's the thing. It's almost like when I know stupid's going down, it's like, ooh, you start pushing big guy, little guys, little guys fight to survive.
Mhm.
Big guys fight by choice. This is a choice where you think you can take, like you're fighting your own, like you're gonna lose, like something bad's gonna happen. All right, so I'll be very blunt. Are they purposely going for a split or towards something? What's their
Man, I can't tell you what they're thinking, right?
okay? No, that's true. I like that. I'd rather
Yeah.
not. I don't want to. I don't. Oh, I was looking for motive. Nobody knows that.
Now, if they were smart,
Yeah.
maybe they just want to get Leo back to the negotiating table.
Oh.
And like, if this is what they're doing, I'm not sure the Donald Trump, New York City mob boss tactics are a great look, but it would actually work, right?
Are these guys trying to make the Catholic Church great again?
Maybe
From their perspective.
But like this quote right here, like, I'm just believing them when they say that. When they say, I'll pull it up on screen just because it's right from their mouth there,
So can you read that for me? Oh wait, I can see it. It's sad to acknowledge for this fact that on from the long hand. Okay, so they're pretty much calling the rest of the family in error.
Yeah. Which means they can't be part of them if you're going to attack your own. Right?
Yeah.
It is a cancer. If you're going to attack your own body, then the body has to cut you out and you have to be gone. It's not that hard. That's what I was saying. Like the simple answer. It's the simple thing. It's the simple fruit that you see. You don't need to make excuses for them. You don't need complicated explanations. You could just say they don't want to be part of this because they want to. Everybody else is absolutely doing it wrong.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
then you don't want to be part of this. Why are we having a conversation?
But Mark, aren't Christians? Isn't there a verse in the Bible about don't throw the first do not judge lest ye be judged?
Yeah. So, I mean, we gotta.
I don't have a problem being judged, Kirk. I don't know why everybody points to that. I'm like, judge away. Go ahead. I don't care.
I
Yeah,
agree, but I'm not a Christian.
yeah. So, I mean, that obviously, like the prime moral directive is to do good and avoid evil, right? Like that's so if you can't discern between good and evil, then you're going to have a pretty hard time. You need to be able to judge, whether somebody's behavior is worthy of admiration and imitation, or if it needs to be rejected and avoided, right? And I don't think that's anything that would contradict what our Lord Jesus spoke about. But ultimately, the only person who's competent to judge an entire life and competent to judge a person's soul and the state of that is God Himself.
Right,
And
but you're supposed to judge them by their fruits. So when
by your
people
fruit
do the
you will
other,
know them. Yeah.
Right, but when people do just the other quote, I'm like, you vastly misunderstood. You're getting the quote exactly backwards, right? So because the point of that quote, which wouldn't apply here anyway, by the way, because you say something, okay, I believe you. Right? You should believe people. You shouldn't think, oh, they're lying. No, you don't want to be part of this. I believe you. Go away. Like it's not that hard, right? Give them exactly what they're saying they want. But with the quote about judgment, what it's referring to is don't judge a person in a way that you yourself would not want to be judged. So if somebody judges whether or not I'm telling the truth, I say judge me all day long because I'm going to judge you that way anyway, and we'll see who wins. Because I'm always going to win that because I always tell the truth, and so I don't care if people judge that because I can't lose if that's the game. I'm okay with this. Right. But if you're trying to judge intent of somebody, maybe there are times you can do that, but most people can't ever do that because they just don't have enough information. And yeah, you wouldn't want somebody to judge your intent on that little information either. That's actually what the quote's saying. So that just people totally misinterpret that stuff for some unknown reason, probably because they hate judgment and think that is their way out of being judged for their bad behavior. But people that don't have bad behavior, have less bad behavior, really aren't too afraid of judgment. And that should tell you everything about their character in about 4 seconds. It's wicked easy. It's a nice, quick thing to understand people by.
Yeah. So moral of the story, progressive Christians generally don't understand the Bible.
Humans of any denomination, faith, or proclamation to the contrary, which is already a lie, do things that indicate they don't want to be judged and will try to get out of judgment any way they can. Not all of them, but a hell of a lot of them will. And that's just too bad. And they'll use any justification possible. And the problem when people quote the Bible is if you're quoting the Bible, especially in little tiny pieces and not whole stories, or at least large parts of whole stories, then you are by definition a fundamentalist. And that is a bad thing in all cases because propositions aren't rich enough to capture the world. And if that's all you're using, and if you're grabbing small quotes like that, that's all you're using.
Because it's real simple, right? Like you need to be able to look at the way that things actually function. And, St. Paul told the Corinthians that the guy who was practicing some fairly, evil immorality needed to be excluded from their assembly. Like that was St. Paul's judgment for this fellow's behavior amongst the Corinthians. So that was okay. So how do we understand what this Christianity thing is if we say don't judge, and then also St. Paul says this guy's behavior is really bad, don't let him in, right? And then St. John right, also says, if somebody denies Christ coming in the flesh, don't even talk to them, right? So it's like, dang, these guys are
When I
kind of
wonder if
hardcore. So
Ixnan's point isn't exactly the point, and it's a translation issue. Because
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm going to get into the Greek of the New Testament today. I've got one last thing that I think is really useful to note with this SSPX situation is that despite the rebellion, I think God brought good out of what they did, and specifically, like when Lefebvre did the illicit consecrations in 1988. That opened up a space where, like, the Vatican was very happy to let the people who broke off from his group and wanted to come back be able to start doing some work there. Like opened up space in the church for some of this traditional liturgy. So I don't know if, like, I got to go to the priestly fraternity of St. Peter seminary and learn the Latin Mass from people who learned it from Lefebvre, right? So, like, I can trace the chain of, like, here's how I learned it, back to people who had been practicing it before it was controversial, right? Back when it was a normal, So it's just amazing to watch God's providence work like that. He could even take what is very unfortunate rebellion moving towards schism and bring some good out of it, as far as I'm concerned.
My favorite thing that Denise ever says, I like that. That's my favorite. That's great. Right to the point.
Yes,
very
indeed.
important.
Oh, we also have some good news. The Vatican has okayed the beatification of Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen. I'm going to see if I can go to that.
He was on TV, wasn't he? I remember him as a kid. Didn't he do TV stuff? Yeah.
He did. And this is a book I've read more than once. It's so good. So good.
Yeah, I don't know who Fulton Sheen is. I know who Charlie Sheen is, but
guess where Charlie Sheen got his name from? It's a stage name.
What?
He 100% named himself after Archbishop Sheen.
Maybe he'll get saved. I don't know. Weirder things have happened.
So it was, Martin Sheen, right? Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
That's Charlie Sheen's dad.
Yeah.
But Emilio Estevez kept his dad's legal name.
Right.
I believe that Fulton Sheen will be the patron saint of YouTubers.
Yeah. Not a bad. There you go. Oh my gosh.
He would have been on YouTube. He would have been on YouTube. He
would
have been, like, Bishop Barron. Bishop Barron understands that, like, the EWTN specials are nice, but if you wanted to be on the platform where people are, you had to be on YouTube,
Yeah. Father, I left you a message. I got prayer requests for a friend. Guys, it's been fun. I will pray for you guys that they cut out the crazy, and Lord, land this plane safe. You know what I mean? Yeah, it can work out. All right, guys. See you. Bye.
See you.
Mr.
Ron's a nice guy.
Ron is a nice guy. I'm glad he signs on. I like answering his questions.
Yeah.
But whatever background noise that he had going on from his laptop, I'm glad to not be getting that into my ears anymore.
Yeah. That's always a plus. It's just an interesting situation, Father, the way you read it out, and it always bothers me when people do this complicated. Well, you see, they have a point. I don't look. This is 100% clear.
That's a vice of the right hand, Mark. And as we've established, you're a monster with 4 left hands. So
I didn't know we had established that.
We established that years ago.
I don't remember. I don't
Okay.
remember. It's been a long day today, so
Yeah.
Okay.
my car was
So,
in the shop. I had to get the car, and it's been drama
Yeah.
here all day. It's been
Yeah,
a
the
lot.
right hand makes excuses for people, and sometimes that's actually the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Never.
So
Inconceivable to me.
4 left hands. Yep.
yeah. So Father, earlier today I was at Chess Club before I hopped on. Is there a reason you're not going to be able to stream next week?
There's a Mardi Gras party happening at my house.
What? Wild.
So it's a priest's Mardi Gras party, right?
Yeah.
And you do these things on a Monday because that's most priests' day off. So they can actually come to this.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you, Father.
Yeah. But
I see.
it just seems a little odd for me to be sulking up here with my internet friends when like a bunch of my real life friends are going to be literally, right down there.
Fair
So-
enough. Fair enough. It's unfair to us. We have to suffer through it though.
Yeah. Maybe you can just go back and like listen to a historic live stream. I actually went back a few weeks ago and just like looked at all the live streams I've done. It was like, wow, I've done a lot of these.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Father,
impressive.
You do one once a week. How long? By the way, how long have you been doing this out of curiosity?
I think it was in late 2022 that I started.
Yeah.
Wow. Was it that long ago?
I was at Holy Cross and I moved to Holy Cross. I was only there for 1 year, and I'm pretty sure I noticed what Jacob was doing in like September, and I decided to start doing it myself in like October or November.
Wow.
So,
Imagine
you've
if
seen
we
me in different offices,
Yeah. Imagine if he had actually bothered to implement his little plan, and we had a nice, sort of smorgasbord of things to choose from for content on the single unified channel. That was such a good. That would have been such a good thing, It really would have been a
Wait.
lot of fun.
What was Jacob's plan?
He was gonna do like he was gonna have different types of content on all the time.
He was going to have a 24-hour, 7 days a week stream. Just
Yeah.
always.
He was gonna run his own TV network effectively, and there were a bunch of people that were like all in, but he wasn't as all in as he pretended. I think.
Yeah. The only problem with that would be that that would mean that I would spend almost all of my free time trying to look for a stream to hop on to, and that's not good for my mental health.
Wouldn't be good for your productivity or growth and virtue either.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to let you jump in on streams. I mean, this is always one of the primary problems, and one of the lessons that they never learned, even the ones who were on Discord and saw it happen, the ones who were on Clubhouse and saw it happen, the ones, who are on YouTube and saw it happen. They never learned the lesson that just because someone wants to jump on doesn't mean they have anything to contribute, and doesn't mean they should jump on. And it doesn't mean even if they have something to contribute that it's a good contribution. And and they used to get all upset at me because I'd state rules up front, like, here are the conditions for you to come on the live stream. I reserve the right to kick you off. And then they get all upset, and I'm like, well, that's really too bad, because it really is my channel, and that's why I try not to interfere with other people's channels. I try to just follow the rules. It's not that hard. You want to cooperate with people, you follow their rules. Otherwise, you're not cooperating with them. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine too. It makes you a bad person, though. So, if you don't care about that, that's fine. But I kind of do. I like to follow people's rules if I'm going to cooperate. If I'm not going to follow their rules, I'm just not going to interfere. I'm probably going to go away and do something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jacob's pretty good about having boundaries on his live streams. He's pretty good with having boundaries.
He lets people on all the time who are never going to talk. And then he lets other people on who are going to just babble about random nonsense. And then he lets other people on who are going to say things, but they're stupid and they say dumb things. And it just wastes everybody's time. And then it's just, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. Like I don't care, right? But also, like that's everyone shouldn't do that. Like, other people should have no, I know who you are. I know you're not going to talk or not going to talk more. You don't have a contribution to make, right? Or you're going to publicly talk about something that's going to make you look like a moron. And I don't want that to happen to you. So I'm not going to let you do it. Like a little bit of responsibility for other people. And Jacob is too nice with that. So, which is weird because Jacob is one of the few people that you're ever going to meet in your life, most likely, Kirk, who's actually really good at spotting bad people. Like his good and evil line is pretty freaking sharp, man. His ability to react to the bad actors is what I'm questioning, but his ability to see it is really good. It's quite impressive. There are very few people that are he's fairly quick too. He'll notice right away when somebody's not a good actor. He just won't throw them off immediately, which that's where I have problems. He'll try to make a space for them. I'm just like, you're gone. See you, bye.
I think I've talked to Jacob before, and when I used to behave in a way that he thought was not conducive to his stream, he would not let me on. So I think he has enough discernment to know when people
he
are
did
not.
that because he's mentoring you as a child, which is maybe appropriate, right? But he doesn't do that with everybody, right? And like he allows folks like Claire Ka to like plague his channel. I don't know if he's still doing it, right? And things like that, long after the point where it's like, this is just a bad actor that you should just ignore, right? He's very reticent to throw anybody out, and that harmed his whole attempt to do the network thing, because people couldn't trust him to keep that off. So there were a bunch of people that probably would have jumped on board. Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't have. But there were a bunch of people who said they would jump on board, but the boundaries weren't tight enough for them, and they get scared away from the project, which is too bad.
But just remember, folks. Just remember. Shh. I haven't seen that one in a while, have we?
No, we haven't. Is that still your top video?
Oh yeah.
Well, just to move it to a more meta level, if that's okay. It's not just move it a little away from Jacob and more to a meta level. I think when you're talking about how people have live streams, it depends on the type of stream you're having. Like if you're having a just chatting stream, for example, you have to recognize that there's a flow to the conversation, and letting people on might be a good idea to see if they can navigate the flow of the conversation.
Yeah,
there's no argument about any of this, Kirk. People can run whatever kind of stream they want. I don't care. However, if you're running a certain type of stream that attracts certain type of people, and certain other people don't ever want to deal with people like that, then you're going to pay a price for that. And you're welcome to pay that price. I don't have a dog in that fight, so I actually don't care. But also, maybe there's certain things you can't do and do that at the same time. I'm just saying, there's probably constraints in the world.
Yeah.
Whatever, Mark.
I don't have to kick people off very often. And sometimes I'm able to just get them to, like, remember that guy that like interrupted the conversation and started doing the Baptist Catholic attack thing?
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, like we're not going to have this kind of conversation here. And then he left, and it's like, is that the way that Mark, you would have handled it? Probably not. You probably would have been a little meaner, but got the job done. It was like, I don't want to do this, here
but
tonight.
But it's even just if the guy who's heading up your network, like that could be a TV network, it doesn't matter, because this happened to Rupert Murdoch all the time, right? Is seen in a certain light, then maybe there's certain types of shows you can never show on your network. That's fine. It's your network, right? But also there's a responsibility for certain things that can't happen given other conditions. Just part of the world, right? Like you can't fly without being in an airplane or a helicopter or something,
or a gyrocopter
or a gyro or whatever. But like without that additional help, you ain't doing it, right? And so that's a constraint. And there's a lot more constraints than people sort of ignore or pretend don't exist. And that's more the issue. So like I don't Because the problem for me, Kirk, is that people will go and do something, and then they'll cry about the fact that doing that thing had a consequence. And then they want my sympathy or something. And I'm like, well, first of all, if you're coming to me for sympathy, you must be really hard up. Second of all, now your actions have consequences and you take responsibility for that. And I'm not going to do anything to interfere with that, because the reason why, maybe this is shocking to people, I don't know why it would be, is because it's not good for you. You can't learn about the world unless you take the consequences, take the loss when you've lost, and move on. And either decide, I'll take this loss every single time because it's worth it, because I've done that many times, right, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars, in fact. But hundreds of thousands of dollars now that I think about it. But if you're not going to learn from it, that's your option, right? You could stop doing it, you could learn from it and change your tactic, or you can just put up with it. But the thing you can't do is get sympathy, because it's not appropriate to give people for a decision that they made. You made a decision. Here's the consequence. I didn't know the consequences in advance. Yeah, join the club, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. Also, learn. Oh, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to do things without getting feedback from people before I do them. So maybe they can alert me as to possible consequences, and I can make an informed decision, right? And people aren't doing that either, right? Which is why I don't like advice to give people advice, like start your own YouTube channel. I think that's possibly the worst type of advice to give people. And that specifically is just damaging for most people, because A, they're going to suck at it, and it's going to destroy their confidence. And B, if you're not prepared to do things like throw people off of this, you could allow other people to hijack your audience and turn them into bad actors. That happens all the time on YouTube. I have a whole video about some of this stuff.
And the reason Mark is allowed to speak so much here is because I don't think he'll turn you into a bad actor. So,
thank you, Father. I appreciate that.
And I think I've earned quite a bit of social capital with regards to the Jacob / Hezi / Father Eric sphere / Mark Lefebvre sphere.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you on, because anytime I'm telling you something, you appear to be listening and taking it seriously, and that's a pretty good thing. So you don't double down on really stupid arguments, and that would be, at that point I'd be like, I don't know if I want this guy on here, but it's I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, though, we're going to keep on doing it, because here we are.
Yeah. So speaking of learning from interaction with you, Father, I recently decided to read Aristotle's Categories.
Okay, it's a nice place to start. What did you think?
I agree with Aristotle on a lot of things. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit more sympathetic to Kantian philosophy than you are, but I still think there's quite a bit of wisdom to be had in Aristotle, especially his views on causality seem to be vindicated by a lot of modern science and biology, where the materialist, physicalist, reductionist view of causality that gets rid of holomorphism and substance, that sort of materialist reductionism seems to have basically been disproven.
Yeah. I did watch a video on Veritasium, and I know, Mark, that you don't like that channel, but they were just sticking to physics this time. So, and proving that, it was just this really complicated thing about a self-contained magnetic field still has a potential around it that they were originally just using to make the math simpler, but it seems to actually be real, even though there's no field interfering with that area where the potential is. And it's like, oh man, quantum mechanics is just, the more I learn about it, the more I'm like, how did Aristotle figure this out by looking at pigs and trees? This is amazing.
Well, that's still my argument. Is you don't need to read any of these guys. You can just look at the world, see what they saw, and come to the same conclusions. It's not difficult.
Well, some people like reading the books. The books could like this is what a really good philosophy will do is it will give you language and structure that
Yeah.
reinforces your best instincts.
Yeah, right. I mean, my whole struggle is I still to this day have absolutely no idea when everybody talks what the hell they're talking about because you're using the language in such a strange way to me. I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're saying. I have no idea. It's so weird. In the same way that, I've told the story before that, my ethics, so-called ethics teacher is asking me like who Aslan reminds me of in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I don't know what he's talking about. I have no idea. I think he's kind of nuts at this stage. I mean, I
My
remember it.
friend's 4-year-old daughter figured it out. So,
Well, but see, that's how I know it's formation. See, and I can tell you that, and we've had many, many talks, right, over the years, and we know each other pretty well. You understand to that point, but my point is me telling that story and people not going, oh, like visibly, like I argue happened with Terry in that clip that I did when she recapitulated what Mark said. She had that like you could just see it, you could hear it, you could see it, you could sense it. If I tell that story and people don't get it immediately, I know they don't understand the concept of formation. And maybe they know the word formation, but they don't get it. They just don't get it. Because that there's a lot of things I say too that like they should be nuclear weapons going off in people's heads, and it goes boom right over them, and there's no impact. And I'm like, and it's not necessarily a language problem either, right? I don't quite know what the problem is. I mean, if you use our models, it's a poetic way of informing the world problem, which solves a lot of this. But it's always stunning to me that people don't understand. No, you're saying the word education, but what you mean is formation. And the way to do formation is, right, because we have all that outlined. So the fact that other people are, I'm a teacher and I've been educating for 50 years and they don't understand any of these concepts, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. It's very scary to live in that world.
yeah. So an interesting thing that you might want to reflect on based on Aristotle's categories is that while he gives you 10, a lot of later thinkers will say there's kind of the 4 that you can really boil it down to. You've got substance, and then you've got quality, quantity, and relation. And so a lot of the things like, vesture and, he went really detailed on, the different types of relation that he had seen, but they're all can be kind of categorized under that. So, just a useful thing if you want a shorter list to keep up here for your cognitive vocabulary.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're saying that was a short list of 4. Okay.
Yeah, substance, and then the accidents can be headed under quantity, quality, and relation. And you can describe everything that way with those categories.
Yeah.
Everything like physical and on a human level, Okay. Yeah, we can't talk about God like that. Fine. Special rules.
Yeah. So, speaking of relations, I recently was reading a Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy article on relational interpretation of quantum mechanics. I found it interesting how this would compare with Aristotelian metaphysics. So, basically, I don't remember when Carlo Rovelli developed this, but it's a recent interpretation by some theoretical physicists of quantum mechanics, which says that the properties of a quantum system exist only relative to the properties of other quantum systems. So it's not that identity gives birth to difference, but difference gives birth to identity, if that makes sense. So it's like if you have a property at a quantum level, it doesn't exist independent of the properties of other quantum systems that are near it. And so I was curious if this is compatible with Aristotelian / Thomist metaphysics, or if it's putting relations as too primary.
I mean, we're dealing with such tiny things, like it's no wonder to me that electrons, with as infinitesimal as they are, could just be like swung wildly by a larger body moving through. So I'm not really sure what you mean by quantum systems, frankly. We're not
Yeah.
talking about like different, like, Schrodinger's interpretation versus Bohr's interpretation. We're just talking about like uh, bits of matter that are near each other.
No. So basically, as I understand it, the mainstream Copenhagen interpretation says that before you observe a quantum system, it's in a superposition, or rather, and that you can't say anything meaningful about it. But I think what this is saying is that you can say something meaningful about it, which is that it does have properties, but those properties only exist because there's other quantum systems observing it, and observation here is defined more broadly than a conscious observer, but rather every quantum system is observing every other quantum system, and that's
Yeah.
what gives rise to their identity. It's sort of like Leibniz's monads.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. I mean, that's self-referential nonsense, right? It's all you're saying there is that everything's alive and conscious. That's all you're actually saying. The observer problem cannot be got around ever. And they don't like that answer. But also that is the only answer that experiments can support. Can support. Like,
And
you
the thing
couldn't
is that
make experiments otherwise.
on non-quantum realms, it is actually impossible for you to observe me without me being changed, right?
Right.
Because right now I am reflecting light, and that light is being captured by the camera sensor, and then all of the magic happens and it shows up on YouTube or StreamYard, depending on how you view this, right? And that light is changing me. Now,
Right.
because I'm a lot bigger than the light, it's not changing me very much. Communicate a little bit of thermal energy, I suppose, maybe some mild chemical reactions, of which I'm blissfully and entirely unaware because they're happening at such a microscopic scale. So I've always wondered, right, with all of this, quantum physics stuff, is if like this stuff is just so small that we can't go in there and make an observation without changing things.
Right.
Yeah, but that's
And then
not.
that's where the
Right.
superposition stuff comes in. This is
Comes
like
in.
like when
Right.
we but like what's going on these infinitesimal levels when we're not looking.
No, but that's not really what the interpretation is saying. What the interpretation is saying is that when we're not looking, quantum systems are still affecting other quantum systems that give them their properties.
Sure, causality that we can't observe. It happens all the time. I'm not sure if that's really much of
Right.
an insight.
Yeah, that's
But
not that's not an
well,
insight. It's self-referential and cannot ever be proven at all scientifically or even on it. It's something that you can never, no one could ever participate with. It's a pure thought experiment that is irrelevant because whether it's true or not, nothing will change.
well, but the reason I bring this up is just in relation to Aristotelian metaphysics. If my understanding of Aristotelian metaphysics is correct, identity gives birth to difference, whereas this is saying difference gives birth to identity.
Identity is the property of a conscious observer in and of itself. It has nothing to do with the properties of an object. That's
And
the problem.
for Aristotle, the way things are, at least material things are really distinguished from each other are, the different types of matter that they're made out of, right? So you've got like an identity of like a human being, and it's like, okay, that gives you like a broad understanding of these things, and it's like, well, now you've got Father Eric with his flesh in North Dakota, and Mark with his flesh in South Carolina, and Kirk with his flesh somewhere south of us. And it's like that's the principle of difference there. And then when you get to spiritual beings, it's like, okay, well, now the rules got to change a little bit. So the spiritual beings, being purely spirit, all just have their own identity, and that's how they exist. Is they're just their identity, because what else is there for them to exist as? It's pure spirit. Um, but I don't know if all of this identity stuff like actually generates anything.
Oh, okay. So it's not necessarily that identity gives birth to difference over difference giving birth to identity. It's that identity is just a classification for how different material things are formed.
How they are, basically.
Are not formed. Are. Yeah.
Yeah, just are, and like that will also tell you something about, what they can do when they're in act, and it'll also tell you something about where they came from. So human beings, come from human beings, and their actions are fitting to a human being. They do human things, but like yeah, they just are. That's how you identify them, by their act and their the observable things that they do.
Okay, that makes sense. So it sort of it seems as though what you're saying is that even like a more relationalist or process theoretic metaphysics is compatible with Aristotle.
I suppose. I don't
I
really
think-
know what those words mean.
Yeah, the ancient Greeks knew everything was connected. The problem is that science fundamentally, because it's science, has to dissect everything. And so the crisis it's been going through is trying to reconnect everything. It's like, well, but the solution is if you don't dissect it, you don't need to reconnect it because it was connected before you dissected it, you dumbass. Problem solved. Like this is why Aristotle and Plato never had these issues that the later so-called philosophers had, because they never dissected the world. They just classified things based on simple observation. They weren't science. Once Immanuel Kant comes around and destroys everything like an idiot, science was like understood. Oh, we just need something observational, and then we can do science. And we're not trying to break free from some framework, right? We're not trying to break free from a framework. And because once you break free from a framework, you have to posit objective material reality. And then now there's all kinds of problems, right?
Mhm.
All kinds of problems. And those problems are stemmed from basically how you define an object. And if you want to know more about that, you can watch Navigating Patterns. Watch my live stream from Friday, my monologue. I think it's only like an hour, just over, right? And
Which
that's
at double speed is only half an hour.
that's true. Although listening to me at double speed might be dangerous. There's a lot of pauses in that one. But that's what's causing. And then I'm going next Friday. Well, this Friday will be the next one. The Friday after that will be the third one in this three-part sequence here, which I've done in the past. But these are problems that are born from starting from science. Now, science has to create an objective material reality and say, no, this is why we own the truth, right? But Plato and Aristotle were not stupid, unlike everybody that came after them, and realized that truth has nothing to do with what they're talking about. They weren't trying to get to the truth. They were using tools of categorization to get to consistency, to justify the city-state, and how to get the city-states to get to cooperate with one another. That's it. Why? Because they're all pagans. And when you have paganism on top of your system, which Plato and Aristotle had, and they acknowledge, right? It's just everybody lies, right? So if you read the Republic, there's a ton of references to the gods and demigods. It's all over the text, all over it.
And everywhere. The lies of the poets.
Yes, that's right. Right. It really does cover pretty much everything. There's a couple things missing, but the Republic covers everything. And so once you realize, they understood that the religion was the big frame, everything else is a subset of that, right? And they would have probably given hemlock to Immanuel Kant for, science, philosophy must not be the handmaiden of religion. It's like, too bad. Like, you're not changing the way the world is, so suck it up, sucker. And like they just never made that mistake, so they never had any of these problems. And so if you just go back to what they said or observe the world on your own, and you'll figure it all out. You don't need any of this other stuff. You don't need to have this uncertainty around something that, by the way, you're not participating with quantum anything ever anyway. So it's never going to be part of your life.
Not unless you go for a swim in Chernobyl,
Not unless you go for what?
A swim in Chernobyl, right?
Yeah.
Just go to the where where they've got the collapse thing, and just go for a swim there. Then you'll be interacting with the quantum world via radiation poisoning. That's what I'm trying to say. So, but you've got to try pretty hard to make an interaction with these kind of subatomic particles actually meaningful to you.
Yeah. Well, the reason is just because I've always been more interested in analytical things, whether it's like finance and economics, physics, philosophy, um, and these types of things that are very analytical, including physics, just kind of pique my interest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so when I observe people with, we'll say, a rather more severe case of scrupulosity, right? Scrupulosity. You know what I mean when I talk about that, Kirk?
Not really.
Scrupulosity is a spiritual condition that people can fall into. It's actually very very sad to see people in a state of scrupulosity. Either in their confessions, they're trying to account for absolutely everything they may have done that wasn't 100% good, um, which I would say in the span of 2 weeks, a human mind could not possibly remember, or or these can come together, often do, is the belief that their relatively minor infractions against God are extremely severe and are not something that they can just quietly repent of inside themselves. So, in Catholic moral theology, we've got a distinction between venial sins and mortal sins, right? Venial sins are kind of annoying and not great things to do. If we're going to talk about it in relation, it's just you're annoying God at this point. Um, it's not a great way to talk about it, but it's an easy way to get in there. But if you just like say, "Hey, I'm sorry about that," and just like a little act of repentance, little act of contrition, receiving Holy Communion worthily, blessing yourself with holy water, like that'll forgive venial sins real easily. Like we're not supposed to worry about them. If there's something that comes up repeatedly, useful to mention next time you go to confession. It's like, this venial sin, I come back to it over and over again. That could be a good place of growth for you. A lot of people who are struggling with scrupulosity imagine that their venial sins are far more severe than they really are. And what I notice about people who are struggling with scrupulosity is that they're very logical in the way that they're dealing with things. In fact, there's almost an excess of logical, linear, discrete thinking that's plaguing them, where they rationalize themselves into thinking that their sins are more severe than they really are. Now, what you want to cultivate in a priest and a confessor is, to use the Lefebvrean language here, a more poetic way of viewing these things. It's like, okay, what did you really do here? Like you got distracted when you were praying your rosary. It's not great. Like the point of praying your rosary is to focus on God, right? But like, come on, like that's just a little bit of human weakness there. That's not something that you should be beating yourself up over. But like, you don't have like a rule that you're applying there. You just hear it and you're like, why are you so nervous about getting distracted while you're praying your rosary? Like, that shouldn't bother you the way that it is bothering you. And meanwhile, the person on the other side of the screen is just talking themselves in circles. They've got these weird systems that they formed entirely inside their head that don't have any connection to anything.
Right.
So when you were talking about finance and physics and analytical things, that's what it made me think of.
Okay, yeah, I might have that. Although I'm not generally very self-critical as a person, like
Yeah.
in that respect.
Yeah, and you can actually The exact same thing can also happen with a laxity of conscience, right? So, you know, the virtues, the mean between two vices. You could have scrupulosity on this side, you have laxity on the other, and then a well-formed conscience in the middle there. So you could also use the same powers of rationalization and justification to justify, wow, that really wasn't a mortal sin because meanwhile, the priest is like, dude, you shouldn't play with that. That's dangerous. You need to stop. You need to go away from that. And if it comes up again, you come right back to confession because this is pretty serious. Well, blah, 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 blah. It's really not that big of a deal, you know? So it's like, it comes at it from both ends, you know?
Yeah.
So all I'm telling you is just be careful with those tools.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Because neither scrupulosity nor laxity of conscience are good places to end up.
Yeah, analysis, contrary to popular belief, can be used to justify anything, and that's like, this is not great. It's not. It might be a necessary tool, but it just doesn't do what people think it does at all. Which is why that's why we're living through the craziness we're living through, right? Because you go online and somebody sees a video of some altercation with some feds of some type, and you know, some people are like, oh, it's ICE and they murdered somebody in cold blood, and the same video, and other people go, no, according to my analysis, it's not, it's DHS, and the gun went off accidentally. And so those are both valid analyses, but you still have to have something based on truth, right? That's the important part. You have to have something that because the starting point matters. You can logic, reason, rationality your way into anything, or out of anything, to further Eric's earlier point. But that doesn't make it good or valid or true or correct. It just means that you're good at logic. Who cares? You can string things together logically and make them consistent.
Right, your logical
not terribly
system
relevant.
is only as good as the axioms that you're founding it on, and
Yep.
those axioms have to come from something outside of the logic. Sorry, Bertrand Russell. Not sorry at all, actually. Seeing you get humiliated on that point is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
though I
that-
wasn't around when it happened.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. So earlier today, I was talking to a physicist, and we were talking about correlation and causation, and they were saying that most, or at least like half of physicists accept Bertrand Russell's view that causation, that we don't look at physics as causation. But if you only look at correlation, you don't have causation, you can't make prediction by definition, because if you're making prediction, you're predicting that this will cause this to happen in the future. And so if you take this sort of skeptical view and you just say, well, whatever fits the data works, then you can have an internally coherent system, but you're not actually getting at the truth.
Right.
And that can work for pragmatic purposes, by the way, but that's not but then don't claim that you're being a good scientist.
Right. In other words, science can't judge itself. Oops. Neither can anything else, but also the scientists don't seem to buy into that thesis somehow.
Yeah.
Even though their math would say, right, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, like there's all kinds of indicators that what they're doing is just completely wrong.
And when you just, you know, when you've got something bigger to put your science in, it's fine.
Yep.
You can use these analytical tools, you know, and they can even be useful to you. And you can, you know, figure out just how strong this compound of steel is. And maybe that'll get us a better, more reliable bridge for a cheaper cost. Like there's all sorts of cool stuff that could happen. But
Yep.
it's just, oh man, like when I was in seminary many moons ago, when the hair was on the top of my head and not the bottom, and I figured out that people were taking the starting axioms of the scientific method and making that the starting axioms of reality. I was like, well, no wonder they're getting all mixed up. Like that's not the appropriate, like you're just you're just assuming that the world is just made out of matter.
Yeah.
Like science hasn't proved that, because science hasn't observed absolutely everything ever and determined that all of it follows causal laws, because that would be the only way that science could prove that matter and energy are the only things that exist. They're not going to do that because that's dumb.
No, and they can't. I mean, they already ran into the wall, right? Is it dark matter? Is it dark energy? Is it both? Right? They're both wrong, by the way. It's modified Newtonian dynamics solves the problem in a cleaner way. I'm just saying. But people get confused about these things, and
Man, I was hoping
science has
Mond
to
was
make
going to be
stuff
an
up.
exotic form of matter.
No, Mond is just Newtonian dynamics is correct, but it changes its scale. And given that everything else changes its scale, it might be a hint, right? So you can solve it with one little math tweak that seems to follow the law of every, like, it's the Pareto distribution base, which is based on the Cauchy curve.
Or like we're talking now, we're getting to like Mandelbrot territory as well. With regards to like Mandelbrot's work in financial markets, and that when you get to a certain scale, you get exponential power laws. I mean, this applies at multiple levels of analysis, but yeah.
For those who have, more will be given them, and for those who have not, even what they have will be taken from them.
And it was right there all along, and they had to do all this fancy math for nothing, since it had already been written down, and they just reject it. Taleb talks about power laws and stuff all the time too. He's a big fan. He met Benoit Mandelbrot. Like they were buds. So
yeah, I probably should read Mandelbrot if I'm going to read Taleb as well. Because I am, like I said, I plan on working on finance. And I heard that, I mean, I'm generally a big fan of their ways of thinking about markets.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'm just imagining you doing like finance the Taleb way, where you're just kind of like sitting around with traders, and these guys who just kind of sitting around, was waiting for a little bit of information to come in before they make a decision. And no, man, sounds like fun.
Taleb wasn't doing any of that. He was just making 1% a year, losing 1% a year, making 1% a year, losing, doing almost no work, and the rest of them are panicking, making tens of millions of dollars until that one day when they all get wiped out. And he makes 8,713% or something in one day. Saves the entire bank he works for. Whatever. Or you can work real hard and lose your 10 million. It's up to you, I guess.
APS. I'm just going to call you AP. You can't build a coherent philosophy from quantum mechanics. Of course not.
You can build anything from quantum mechanics. That's still the problem.
I don't know. I kind of feel like electron guns are pretty cool.
They can't, but that doesn't require quantum mechanics. Like electron guns were done long before. This is always the problem. They always claim it backwards. They're like, you wouldn't have this if not for. I'm like, we didn't even have quantum mechanics when we invented the electron guns. So you're just wrong about that. It's just a time problem. You just don't know your history, and you
do I need to have a concealed carry permit to own an electron gun?
Take it up with your legislator. Yeah, but what about quantum computing, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's up in the air as to whether or not that's even useful or does any of the things they're claiming. And the thing is, they're not swappable. Like, a quantum computer can't do what your laptop does. You could not run a user-level operating system on a quantum computer. It's already
just like a real specialized like cryptography hacking thing, right?
Exactly. It's like a supercomputer, right? The supercomputers are wonderful, but you cannot technically put a GUI on it. It wouldn't function. Like you couldn't run a GUI on a super. It's not possible, right? Because there's things like IO limitations and like there's design constraints. The math with the quantum computer only, I think, last month. And I didn't read the paper because I've been done with for years with this quantum BS nonsense stuff. Allegedly last month, somebody finally published a paper that allegedly proved that at this one thing, the quantum computer is actually slightly faster than conventional computing. But it's one thing, and it's very recent, and I am completely skeptical, and it's not a 10x improvement. So it's kind of like, if you ain't doing 10x, what are we talking about? Right? The waste of money. It's a total waste of money given how expensive those things are.
Yeah.
So I get it, Kirk. Believe me, I understand the extent to which they're lying. Also, they're lying. And they've written papers about the fact that they're lying. It's in the white papers. You just got to read them. And there's a lot of people that will come around and point out, like, you guys keep saying these quantum computers do these things, but they don't. And they can only do these things. And these things can be done by conventional computers. And the conventional computers are pretty damn fast at them. And the quantum computers don't seem to be any faster. And that's what's happening. Like, that's it.
9850X3D, man. 16 cores. What is that? You double
More
that.
cores. More cores, which doesn't help you at all. Yeah.
No. They're doing cool stuff where you can do core parking, where the game is running on the X3D half of the chip, and then you've got your Windows system processing running on the faster part of the chip without the level 3 memory.
Right. Yeah. We were doing that on Unix in the 90s. This is nothing to me. Yeah,
they had multi-core processors in the 90s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Sun started that where they needed it because they went Spark. And when you go Spark, you got to go multi-core. Because the problem with Spark is you have a smaller instruction set, which means you need a smaller die size. But they were shrinking the die so fast that, well, what are you going to do with the rest of the wafer? It's like, well, we could make, I don't know, it's probably 1,000 Spark chips on a wafer or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can make multi-core Spark chips. And so Sun Microsystems pioneered all the multi-core stuff. Not all of it, but most of the multi-core stuff that wasn't supercomputing, because there were different levels back then. So everything that wasn't supercomputing multi-core, Sun built, basically. And they early on focused on crossbar switch, which was an unbelievable I/O improvement where you could do magical things that increased your bus width without taking up more silicon. I don't know what they're using nowadays. Crossbar is no longer patented, I think. So everybody's got crossbar, but so yeah, a lot of this stuff is really old. Like, I remember installing, when I have some in the shed probably, but like, I remember installing on 8-core machines. That was nothing. We had, and back in the day too, like, even one of the companies I started, we had a 2-processor machine. So it was technically but that was before hyper-threading and multi-cores on die and stuff in the Intel world. But Spark had it for years and years. All the multi-core stuff on Linux was all built on Spark and ported to x86 after the fact, because Intel just took so long to catch up with multi-core stuff. But a lot of people just don't know the history, and so they just don't understand how any of the stuff works. And things like core pinning, I think was what we used to call it, just very old tech.
Man, I love hearing about Uncle Mark's tech shed. You know, back in the dinosaur
tech shed.
Uncle Mark's tech shed. You know,
I love it.
Like, here's my lift machine. It's the best thing ever.
It's the minute I have the space and the time, the lift machine's coming out of the shed, and I'm gonna see if I can get it to run. There's no question about it.
Man,
I can't wait. One of these days, I will get that, and I'm gonna put it all on YouTube too. Because why not?
You need to make a spin-off channel called Uncle Mark's Tech Shed.
Maybe I do. Now I'm thinking about it, Father. So now you get the gears turning. Think of all this, because I've got an old SGI Indy. I've got old HP 9000 system. I've got a bunch of stuff. I've got the old original Motorola Sun system with I think it's Sun OS 413. I had a bunch of stuff. It'd be nice to get it all back up and running.
I don't think Mark's quite old enough to remember all the
No,
plastic
I
robots from the
not around in the
1960s.
1960s.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the 1960s, other than the 1960s are responsible for all the ruination we're experiencing, including much of my personal trauma. So
3 generations after abandonment of family values, the empire collapses.
yep. 250 years, though, one of the longest, if not the longest lasting. One of the
Well, we might
longest
still,
lasting.
we might still, we might be able to pull this out.
We could pull up.
Yeah.
We could pull up. It's,
Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
no, what's that? What's that about?
I don't know. Who is Andy Weir, and who's John Galt? While we're at it,
Who is John Galt? That's a better question. I addressed that in my Friday live stream. I gotta do.
He looks like Walmart brand Benjamin Boyce mixed with Jeb Bush.
That's funny. Walmart brand Benjamin Boyce. That's hysterical.
Looks like he wrote The Martian. So
oh, he's the guy that wrote The Martian. Oh, that's why I know the name. Okay.
Yeah. We just got there. Yeah, just got.
I don't like. Yeah, he wrote The Martian. Kind of. That was another internet project. He wrote The Martian.
Originally published as a free serial on his website, some readers requested he make it available on Amazon Kindle.
Yeah. Well, and he was part of a writers' community, a large one, and that's how The Martian got written. And getting good for him. That's way more work than most people ever do with anything ever. But also, not quite the glaring achievement that it seems to be, because he had a lot of help. He had a lot more help than your average, we'll say, top-notch author. No, I'm a Werner Vinge fan. I thought his deepness stuff was really good. Like, in fact, I should reread it if I have it. I don't know if I have it. That might have gotten stolen with all the other stuff that got stolen. So, but yeah, I would buy that again. Deepness in the Sky, and get the other one. But those two Werner Vinge novels were really good. That's way, and Snow Crash, of course, which is awesome. Snow Crash is hard to read because it takes like 50 something pages. And then once you get past that, you get Snow Crash, and then Snow Crash is also excellent. It's right. Werner Vinge came later, but Neil Stephenson really nailed the same vibe, and that's all a continuation.
Did you need the first 50 pages? And it's just like, we got to get all this stuff.
You did. It just, the problem is, I think he was very scattered anyway, which is interesting because it's like Andor season 2, which I've been watching. Andor season 2 is a complete mess until episode 8, and then the payoff comes in episode 9, which I just watched. More payoff, and I get 3 more episodes left, so it's supposedly payoff all at the end, which is fine. Like, that's perfectly good storytelling. But yeah, there's certain things you have to kind of stick with. Unlike something like Ender's Game, where Ender's Game is just engaging from page 1, right? Orson Scott Card really knows how to bring it home.
You just have 9-year-olds murdering people. Like, that's engaging. If that actually happened, there'd be news stories about that for weeks.
The problem is that things like that actually happen, and they get swept under the rug, and sometimes correctly, which is what happens in the book.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And Orson Scott Card is so much better at child human behavior, which some people would call psychology, but they'd be wrong, than anybody else ever, including all of the professionals combined, that it's insane. Like, he's just so good. Like, Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead are probably perfect in terms of human behavior. Like, they're really, Speaker for the Dead in particular. Speaker for the Dead is a little strange, and it doesn't even seem like it's the same author at some point, even though it's the same world and the same characters. But like, if you understand Speaker for the Dead, it's a total mind blow. I mean, it's so useful. In my mind, Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead are excellent for getting people out of video game thinking. They're excellent for introducing people to new perspectives and the poetic way of informing the world. And one of the videos I was going to do today, it was actually to episode 8 of Andor. A bunch of stuff happens, but it's all layered. And the thing that happens is you see all the layers all at once. So first you only see like 3 perspectives in 2 layers. And then you don't realize that what you've been watching is like a 4-layer cake, or maybe 5, depending upon how you slice it. But on episode 8, bang, the whole thing, like all the betrayal comes out, all these things. The only problem with Andor is that they wrote themselves into a corner, which is why I think that's why there won't be a season 3, because there's no good guys. Everything's a mess. It's still an excellent series, don't get me wrong, but also they wrote it wrong. And so they ended up with no good guys. They ended up with no pure characters. They ended up in a complete mess because they're trying to justify a worldview that can't be justified, like many other people. And they just have much better storytelling capabilities than all the other leftist retards. So
I'm curious. So I've read Ender's Game. I haven't read Speaker for the Dead.
How?
I read Ender's Shadow next because that seemed logical.
I'm always on the fence about that. I mean, you read Ender, you got to read it all just because that's the way it works. But like, man, Speaker for the Dead is a much better book.
Okay.
It's because
Look, I didn't have you there to tell me that. All right, I was just checking these things out from the library in high school.
It hurts my heart, sir. It hurts in my heart. Every time somebody does something like that, I'm like, no, you have to read Speaker for the Dead. It's required. It's required.
I didn't know that. So
you would love it too. It's right up Priest alley for sure.
I probably would. But what do you? And I'm just curious about this. What do you see in Ender's Game that helps cure people of video game thinking?
So Ender is trapped in the military system, which is being fed by the military world, right? And so effectively the world in Ender's Game is all military. Even though there's a private government and politics is there. That's the other thing. Freaking Orson Scott Card understands politics better than everybody on YouTube combined. If you took out all their bad ideas and only used their good ideas, Orson Scott Card's got them beat by a mile anyway, right? Like his politics is data. Like he really understands human behavior, which is what politics really is, right? And so he understands all this stuff. And what happens is this twofold encounter. So on the one hand, you have the military machine violating its own rules to protect what in Matrix terms would be the one, which is just a funny way to do it. Right? And that this creates all these conflicts, right? And on the other hand, right, because Ender figures that out at some point, right? It's in the back. I mean, the reader knows, right? The reader knows.
Right. Well, it's right there at the beginning because he's a third child.
Right. All through the book, there's all these subversions of the rules for some higher purpose that you don't understand at all in the beginning, right? But then they break the rules to screw him over, and it doesn't work because they break the rules as a test to him.
All right, so this is the increasingly like ridiculous challenges that they put in front of him, where they're like
2 teams versus 1. They start screwing with with all the rules, and they're putting the other team in first. They're stacking the deck against him, right?
To see if he'll break.
Right. And not only does he not break, but he wins until he does break, and then they make more exceptions and send him back to Earth and whatever, right? But that also doesn't work. In other words, maybe he passed the test, but that doesn't do the formation. What does the formation is meeting Rackham, right? And what he does is effectively that would be roughly Eastern spirituality. Forget everything you know, throw it all out, go with the flow, right? Only he does it in a very Western way, which is, I don't know how Orson Scott Card did it. Like, and I have no idea. Such a good book, right?
Mhm.
And so what ends up happening is that's the end of his formation that takes him from a machine formed creature, which he is in the book,
Mhm.
into a creature that cares about preserving the life of the thing that he's supposed to destroy.
Right,
Right.
because that was another theme. You know, they've got this crazy video game in the novel that's also like a psychologically entwined with you.
Yep.
And he had like the struggle with the giant, like
Yep.
offering him the 2 poison shots, and then he has to just go kill the giant,
Yep.
and all of that.
Right. And then basically the enemy infiltrates the computer system and changes that game too to communicate with him directly,
Mhm.
right? At the right time, because their test gets subverted effectively by the ant intelligence, or bug intelligence, right?
Mhm.
And then the bug intelligence uses that not only to survive, right? Because it creates this, it goes inside the network basically, the Ansible network. But it also uses it to make sure that it's going to survive. Like, I understand that you got to do what you got to do, and I agree you got to do that, but also preserve me.
Mhm.
And he agrees to it all, which is
Mhm.
amazing, right? I mean, it's such a good book. It's such a good book. Like, I
No,
could,
if it's been so long since I've read it, but Ender still thought he was in training simulations up until the very end of the war, right?
yes,
And then Bean was the
right.
one who figured out that, like, no, if this was a training simulation, they would need to have like a delay for even inside the same star system if they were going to
Yeah,
simulate
it's
this
Bean.
properly.
Right. What he does later is he turns Bean into the autistic hero of the video game reality.
Mhm.
Right. So what you find out in Ender's Shadow is that it was Bean was doing all the heavy lifting and Ender wasn't the one.
Mhm.
But Ender is the one because he combines the spirituality. And this is the key. If you read Speaker for the Dead, it opens up, and he never goes anywhere with Speaker for the Dead. But when you read Speaker for the Dead, it's like, oh wow, right? Because he basically, how would you say it in secular terms? You'd say something like he has a spiritual awakening that allows him to transcend or something, right? That's how
Mhm.
you'd have to do it, as the result of him exiling himself for repentance, which is just, it's great. It's fantastic. I don't know. I'm fairly sure Orson Scott Card's a Mormon, but
Mhm.
it doesn't matter because he stumbles across the right answer, as Mark D. Parker did. Like, it
Mhm.
happens.
It
Yeah,
does happen.
that's why it's good, because Speaker for the Dead is about basically a funeral, right?
Mhm.
And it's a new take because it's a different planet on how funerals are conducted,
Mhm.
right? And plus all the political stuff is still going on in the background, and the political stuff gets more interesting because when you consider the series in terms of Peter, Ender, and Bean, like it's a really coherent world. It's a really coherent world, and it has a lot of the components. It doesn't have all the components. There's a lot of the components that you need. Like, there's no babies, so that's a problem. But like, if you wanted to compare that to Ayn Rand, the problem would be, well, Orson Scott Card's got a way more encompassing world than Ayn Rand does. Still not a philosophy, but also he's got a way bigger world, and he's not trying to be a philosopher, to be fair to him, but in terms of storytelling, it's a really well-rounded world.
Yeah. Well, I need to continue to be a well-rounded human being, and part of being a well-rounded human being is regularly resting. And I've noticed it's become dark outside, so I think a rational creature would go to bed under such circumstances. So, boy, good conversation tonight. Glad to have the both of you on, and Ron on a little earlier. Just remember to stay on the boat.
Okay. And real quick, are you gonna be streaming live stream? Do you ever stream on like Tuesdays when you don't stream on Mondays?
No,
Okay. Well, in that case, good night.
this
I'll see
is
you in 2 weeks.
look. I do this, but it's not my number one priority. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
See you in 2 weeks, Fozzie.
all right. See you in 2 weeks. Good night, and God bless you all.